Now, on Sunday night, England will play Italy to see who will be the champions of Europe. And I'm joined now by John Giles to look forward to that game, but also to look back at the two semi-finals. Italy beat Spain in a penalty shootout, and England also had to go to extra time, and they won with a disputed goal, and it did set up what should be a really interesting final. And I'm joined now by John Giles to discuss what we've seen. John, let's go to the Spain-Italy match first. Italy have been very impressive throughout the tournament. They haven't lost for 33 matches. It's an amazing record. And Mancini, the manager, or coach rather, has done really well. Yet, in the game against Spain, I thought they were second best. Spain played really well.
Spain did. They played better than I expected them to play. I think they played probably better than you expected them to play. But Italy hung in there, and like the defenders, we talked about Chiellini and his partner and Bonucci in there. Really were very, very professional in what they did to get to the penalty shootout, because it looked like Spain could well win it in the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So they still did well. They're a well-organised team, and as we know, they wouldn't be where they are with and they've changed over the years. You've got Jorginho in middle of the field, Verratti, Insigne.
Yeah.
I think we spoke about it before the match, that years ago, a good while ago, if Italy went one up in the first minute, they'd hang on and play to defend. Now it is different. They do have a go, and they didn't sit back the other day, despite the fact that Spain were playing well. They still had a go at them. So that's a big change in them.
Yeah.
So,
and they have one or two. The very good goalkeeper, Donnarumma. He plays for Milan AC. He's a young guy, 22, but he's a giant and very imposing. And actually, he saved the key penalty from poor old Morata, who missed two penalties in the tournament and has had a pretty bad time. But in general play, Spain were very good. As you say, John, this is a more aggressive Italian team. They play on the front foot whenever they can.
Yeah.
And they did lose for the semi-final against Belgium in the quarter-final. Spinazzola, who plays for Roma, he's a left-back with a right foot, a young guy, only had 13 caps, I think, coming into the tournament, but he was an outstanding player. He snapped his Achilles heel. He went up for a header against Belgium, snapped his Achilles heel, and that will take him 6 months. So they did miss him.
Yes.
And they brought in a player, Emerson. He's been at Chelsea. He didn't play one first-team game, for certainly not a Premier League game, for Chelsea all last season. But he did okay against Spain. I'd just like to ask you about the Spanish goal, which Morata ironically got. It was the Spanish equaliser. It was a 1-2, and I thought Chiellini was caught. He didn't go with the runner. He wasn't able to maybe go with the runner. Apart from that, him and Bonucci have been pretty rock solid, really, and very experienced. No panic.
No panic, and the goalkeeper, as you say, is good.
Yeah.
And they're good in midfield as well. Jorginho is playing better than I've seen him play for Chelsea. I think we spoke about this before, Eamon. He's turning on the ball. He's been more aggressive.
Yeah.
Like at Chelsea, he plays it A to B, a bit square. And I think, the manager, I think Mancini got a grip of him. Not got a grip of him, told him, look, I want you to turn on the ball. I want you to be more aggressive.
Yes.
And he's done that. He's got Verratti there beside him, in the middle of the field, and Insigne as well. What they don't have...
No, Barella is the other midfield player, plays for Inter.
Oh, is he? Sorry, okay.
Insigne is more a wide...
Striker.
A wide striker, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
But Barella is the guy who plays for Inter, who won, as you know, won Serie A last season, and very, very good player indeed.
Yeah, so they've got something in the middle of the field there, Eamon. I think what they lack, again, we've spoken about before, is the goal scoring situation.
Yes, they don't have an.
Chiesa is their main man for scoring, Eamon, and he's a bit of a wide player as well. He's very good, but they don't have that killer man up front.
No,
to make use of the ball when they have it. So but neither did Spain, neither on the other night, with our friend having a bad time in it, But like they're a good all-round team. It's going to be very tight, as we know, but I think they've a better attitude than they had years ago in many ways, and be more aggressive when and not try and tie up the game as they did. So it's very, very hard to call it, Eamon. I must say, I think they're a very, very good team. They've got some very, very good players. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating match, John. I mean, and we talk about England and the poor old Danes who really had to travel to Baku to play their quarter-final game, and a tough game it was against the Czech Republic. They, of course, lost Christian Eriksen in tragic circumstances, and we don't know, thank God, he saved his life. And the quick thinking of people in that incident saved his life. Whether his career is saved, we simply don't know. He's only 29. But that incident seemed to bring the team and their fans together. And looking at last night's semi-final, John, they really worked as hard as any team possibly could, didn't they?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, the spirit of the team was great. I mean, they call it, the Christian Eriksen spirit, and they had it in abundance.
Yes.
I mean, they got tired near the end, as you said. They've had a lot of matches and a lot of travelling.
Yes.
But God, they put up a really good show. A really good show. I mean, the penalty incident was a bit controversial. I think England shaded it on the night, and I think they were fitter than them. Well, they certainly were able to last longer than them. So I think they just about deserve to win it.
Yeah, and we'll have to say about England, they're going to be playing 8 games altogether now. 7 of them were at Wembley, and they had to go to Rome to play the Ukraine, who they beat 4-0. Ukraine were very tired, not really a top team. But the performances of the Danish team deserve recognition. Starting with Kasper Schmeichel, John. He must be now the best goalkeeper in the world. He was absolutely outstanding against England and in other games. He also showed, in a more general way, leadership, particularly in the Christian Eriksen situation. He's a mighty man, isn't he? And his father, who was a great player, must be proud of him. And I think Kasper's a bit nicer than the daddy.
Yeah, well, I think the daddy didn't get on very well with Roy Keane, and apparently, Eamon. No, I think they had a few rows on it. But he was a terrific goalkeeper as well. But this lad is really. They say it takes a while for goalkeepers to mature, Eamon. I think he's 34 now, probably at his peak.
Yes.
Because he had a couple of clubs early on. I mean, I think he was at City, I think he was at Leeds.
Yeah.
And they let him go. But he was very young at that time, but he has grown into it. I'd say he's the best goalkeeper, certainly in the Premiership.
Yeah, and at a key moment in the game last night against England, they lost Christensen, who is a very good player, Champions League player, a final player with Chelsea, and a very, very good player. They lost him, and Højbjerg, who plays for Tottenham as a defensive midfield player, played a bit more forward for Denmark. He also looked tired and also picked up an injury. But it was a gallant performance. I want to ask you first, though, about the decisive moment in the game, which was the penalty for allegedly Raheem Sterling being fouled in the box. John, did you think it was a penalty?
Just about, Eamon.
Right.
Just about. I think what happened as well, the defender that was involved in it, I think, was very, very tired, Eamon.
Yes.
And I think he sort of threw his leg at Sterling to bring him down. There wasn't much. Well, you don't have to have much touch nowadays, Eamon, on the opposition to go down with a penalty kick. And he went down. So I think it was tiredness that he didn't do what he should have done, which was to keep away from Sterling or make a really honest effort to do it. So I think they paid the penalty for their tiredness in that particular incident, Damon.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was a penalty, John. I didn't think it was any contact made, any meaningful contact made, because he pulled his leg away and Sterling was on his way down. There was no leg to fall over. But
that's the way it is now, Damon. But if you give any hint of it, what I'm saying was, if he was making a genuine effort in the situation, he wouldn't have just. I'm talking about the defender now. Just put his leg out. And if you do that nowadays, all the players take advantage of it to get the penalty. But a lot of penalties you see now, a lot of players are diving all over the place, you know.
Oh, they are, yeah.
But they're brilliant at it. In
this championship, John, I thought I think the refereeing has been very good, generally. VAR has operated well. And one of the things they've not fallen for is this diving. There's been a lot of referees who have wave play on, they're not having it. But anyway, that was the decisive moment. You couldn't deny that over the period, the 2 hours they played, England were the better team. They had more legs, basically, and more possession. And they do have quality they have quality at the back. But I want to ask you about some of the decisions Gareth Southgate, Sir Gareth, as he might well be in the not-too-distant future, John. He made some strange decisions last night. He brought Saka back into the side, and he stayed with the two holding midfielders, Phillips from Leeds and Declan Rice, of course, from West Ham. It's quite a cautious approach, conservative approach, I'd call it. And basically, even though it's Denmark they're playing, they didn't really play with intensity. They didn't put Denmark under pressure. They didn't have a press, really. And relying on Sterling and Harry Kane and Saka to create the danger, and maybe Luke Shaw on the left-hand side. It was also very interesting that Kyle Walker, who's played very well as a defender, those rampaging runs he used to make for Manchester City, they're off the agenda. So it's a cautious approach by Gareth.
Well, he made the substitutions, Eamon, at a time when I think, to be honest, it looks good. We're winning. We'll put more defenders on. I think the best way to defend is to get the ball and keep the ball.
Yeah.
But Eamon, they're short in midfield.
Yes.
They're definitely short. The Phillips does what he does well. He's more a winner of the ball. He's not creative, and neither is Rice creative. They're both very, very good players at what they do.
Yeah.
But they're not going to get a grip of the game. Italy have Jorginho, Verratti, Barella for Sunday.
Yeah.
Now, they're going to be against Phillips and Rice.
Yeah.
Now, I can only see one winner in the middle of the field there.
Right.
Now, obviously, England have better players all around the pitch, in my opinion, in relation to Italy. But my fear for them, if I have a fear for England, is Jorginho and Verratti and Barella getting a grip of the game.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yeah.
That'd be my fear for them to win this particular match, because they always say, matches are won and lost in the middle of the field, getting possession of the ball. And I thought even last night, Denmark, and they don't have great midfield players, actually ran the middle of the field.
Yeah, they did. And the problem, John, is caution, isn't it? And sort of...
Well, Eamon, I don't think it's caution with Southgate, because I'd say to you now, and I'd ask myself, who would you put in midfield?
For England?
Yeah.
They don't have the kind of guile... they don't have a playmaker. We were talking during the match last night. They don't have someone like, say, Thiago, although he hasn't been starting in the Spanish team. They don't have even someone like Verratti, who's a sharp tackler, but he can use the ball. They don't have a Jorginho. That's the kind of player they really need, isn't it?
Exactly. Spain had Busquets, and they had the kids, Pedri, in the middle of the field. Like England, all around the field, apart from midfield, have really, really good players. They got about 5 or 6 attacking players. But again, if I was trying to ask myself the question, who would I put in midfield?
Yeah.
And nobody comes to mind.
No.
I think Phillips and Rice are probably as good as they get and what they do. But they do need that extra little bit to dominate a team like Denmark, which they didn't do from the middle of the field. That'd be my fear, if I had a fear for them, as I say, against Italy in the final. That Jorginho and Verratti and Barella, to a certain extent, could get a grip of that midfield.
Now, the Italians, as I say, they've lost Spinazzola, but they have Chiesi, we hope, although he looked... I'm not sure if he had cramp at the end of the Spanish game or he may have pulled a muscle, but they have Insigne and they have Immobile, who's having a bad time, actually. That's their strike force, really. But the goals, Barella scored, Chiesa scored. But the thing they also have, John, they move up and down as a unit together, the Italians. If they're attacking, they're quite compact if they're defending, they're compact. I thought I saw signs the other night, John, of their old defensive mindset coming into play. About halfway through the second half, they weren't committing so many people forward. They were getting back behind the ball, and there was that old Italian thing, fear.
Yeah,
fear of losing.
I think they were forced a bit, though, Eamon, to do that. You know what I mean? I honestly don't think they consciously did it like they used to, where they'd win and they'd get a goal and they'd fall back. I think just that Spain were winning the battle in the middle of the field and chasing the goal at that particular time.
Yeah,
I think maybe a little bit, Eamon, that they thought, well, they go back to their old ways, but not like they used to. I mean, they were still making counterattacks. See, they don't really have the force up the pitch, Eamon, and in the forward line. They really don't, and that would be my biggest fear for them.
Yeah, someone like a Harry Kane, someone that is going to.
Well, Sterling and Kane are doing it for England.
They are
in a big way, in a big way.
And people. I mean, we were talking about Gareth Southgate, and I've talked about him in uncomplimentary terms over the last year or two, but there are a couple of things he should be commended for, John. Raheem Sterling's had a pretty poor season with Manchester City. Guardiola appears to have leaked it, or somebody associated with him, the fact that they're willing to sell Raheem Sterling. He didn't start in their major matches towards the end of the season, including Champions League matches. So he looked on the way out. Now, and he hadn't played well. And Southgate stuck with him. And he scored the goals, 3 goals. He's made a great assist early in the game in Rome for Harry Kane. It was a really good ball, which he picked out, and Kane finished it off. So he's been England's most effective player. He's also injected tempo into the game and danger. So you'd have to give Southgate credit for that, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, of course, Eamon. But I'd like to be giving Sterling a kick up the bum about Pep Guardiola for him not doing what he did.
Yeah,
I think what he did for City was outrageous. Now, obviously, Southgate might have a personal relationship with him.
Yeah,
Eamon, that would say, look, I want you. You're out there now to do your stuff, and we know he can do his stuff.
Yeah,
but I would be questioning Sterling. Like you, I wouldn't have had him in the team at all. No. I thought his form for City, or his approach, or attitude at City was disgraceful. Now, we know he can play, but there must have been, I don't know whether there's a personal thing going on at City or not, Eamon, but Southgate might have known about it, he might have known the situation,
yes,
and he'd be getting the Sterling that we know what he can do. And that has been a plus for him, there's no doubt about that. I think it's his attitude generally, Eamon. I think he's a decent character, He doesn't go after players, and he doesn't get at them, and he doesn't single him out publicly and all that, which is very, very good.
Yes.
So I'd say he has a good relationship with all of the players, and he has a very, very good group of players. I mean, he's definitely missing a real midfield player for possession of the ball. There's no doubt about that. But generally speaking, he's got about 7 defenders, Eamon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are all good.
Yeah.
He's got about 8 attackers.
Yep.
Who are all good.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for him to pick the wrong team.
Yeah, the guy who has delivered, John, big time is Harry Kane. Last night, for example, the goal, and it was a key goal, the own goal, as they call it, he delivered the pass to Saka. And it was he came deep, Harry Kane, which he can do, and he delivered a beautiful pass into Saka. Saka picked his cross out, and it was, if it didn't go into the net off a Danish player, it was going to go into the net with Sterling.
He's done very well to stand by him. That's what he's done well. Now, I criticised him early on because he did substitute Kane in one of the early matches, when he wasn't playing well.
It took off at about 15 minutes to go, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's, it's taking him off. I thought that was a bad move, actually, because Kane is what he is. Okay, he was having a bad match, he wasn't at his best, but he's come back as the way you would expect him to do.
Yeah.
Because he is the real McCoy. I think he's a great player, Harry Kane.
Yeah.
So, I would expect him to stand by him. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Southgate, but I think his manner is very, very good. I don't think he's fallen out with any of the players.
No.
In the way that some of the managers do. I mean, if you take Mourinho, for example, he's fallen out with player after player after player. I don't think that's in Southgate. I think he's a decent individual. I read certain things in the paper that I wouldn't be too keen about. Like, for example, Harry Kane was in the front of the paper the other day saying, well, I'll be the last to speak to the players before we go on the pitch.
Yeah.
I don't like that. No. There's only one person should be speaking to the players before they go on the pitch and control everything, and that's the manager. But anyway, if it works, Eamon. That's the way it is. And so far it's worked.
Now there's another issue with which really was highlighted last night. Jordan Pickford, the goalkeeper, John.
Yeah.
He is he's a showman. He's erratic. He doesn't have the presence to command the area for set pieces or anything. Every time you see him, he's telling his defenders around him to calm down. That's the body language. Every time you see him, he's hyper. This guy's he's costly, John.
Yeah, I'm not a great fan of his. I think his attitude is very poor. Like the match there when Sterling lost the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, in a big match and the Germany game, and Muller went through.
Yeah.
He jumped up straight away and pointing down at Sterling.
Yeah.
He does that quite regularly.
He does, yeah. He's doing it all night.
No player ever should do that on the pitch. All players make mistakes. I never ever agreed with that carry on of pointing the finger, because he's made a few blooming mistakes himself.
Yes.
It. Now, and they've got some good goalkeepers there. But anyway, I think overall he's a good goalkeeper, Eamon. I think he's been erratic in the last couple of matches. The other day he wasn't very good. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did put somebody else in. I don't think he will at this stage now. So he stood by him as well.
Right.
Southgate.
Okay, John, I'm going to ask you now to put your...
my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, put your neck on the line. Who's going to win the European Championship on Sunday night? I'll admit first that I usually have strong feelings, as you know, and I don't have a strong feeling either way here. I'm not sure. That's my answer.
Well, up to the semis, Eamon, I was going with England.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now because I'd be worried about the midfield situation.
Right.
Well, if I had to put my life on it now, I'd probably still go with England.
You would? Okay.
With the home advantage, and they're on a run. But I wouldn't be putting much money on it, Eamon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well,
I think there's a possibility of a surprise with the midfield there. That's what I'd be worried about for England and not controlling the midfield.
Right. So you're going for England?
Yeah.
Football's coming home.
I don't know what it is, Eamon. I mean, it's driving me mad as well. But anyway, I think it's the same all over the world. If anybody's in a position England are in, they're playing at home, big competition, then they're going to go mad. Okay,
and we certainly did here, John, during Italian 90. I think you need someone. I was looking at all the pundits last night on the English channel on ITV. None of them are going to say, hold on a minute, this is garbage.
No,
they were all on the bandwagon. Okay, John.
I didn't even watch that, Eamon. I can imagine what it'd be like, But anyway,
even our Roy jumped on the bandwagon.
Oh, did he? That's unusual.
Well, no, I'm not having a go at him, but he certainly wasn't going to. He wasn't going to go against the flow. Anyway, John, you've tipped England. We'll be back on Monday morning to talk to you, and I don't know who's going to win. I think I have a slight preference for Italy in terms of. For the reasons you stated, actually.
I wouldn't be putting money. I wouldn't be putting money on it, Eamon. I'm going with England because the home advantage. They've done well so far. The morale should be good, but no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't be putting anything on it.
You never did. Okay, John.
No. Okay.
Thanks very much for joining us.